Imagine being a company that's faced the product distribution struggles of your clients finding dead rats, band-aids, condoms, maggots, and shards of glass in their meals. On top of that, you've constantly got reporters releasing articles talking about the scrap pieces of meat from carcasses of cows and the ingredients the same as dog food that you've been using in your product. Now, this same company also has a net worth of $61.95 billion, has 36,000 outlets around the world, which serve 70 million customers every day, and they're also ranked 9 out of the top 10 richest companies in the world. Does anybody know what company I could be talking about? Chick-fil-A. No. If you thought McDonald's, you are correct. So how are they able to pull it off? Their success is remarkable, taking into account such a low-quality product. Well, they have established a great brand presence. Ronald McDonald, for example, appeals to kids from every family all over the world. I can guarantee you that 100% of the people that you come across has heard of McDonald's. By appealing to these kids, McDonald's establishes itself as a family-friendly corporation, which allows it to market to one of the largest market groups in the country. I chose this example because I think it clearly demonstrates how the power of marketing can take a subpar product and make billions off of it. This kind of got me thinking, if a company with such a low quality product can be so successful, then why can't companies that have high quality products be just as successful? Hi, my name is Eden Bohannon, and I'm an entrepreneur with a passion for marketing high quality products. So to start out this presentation, I wanted to go over a quote, which is, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right," by Henry Ford. I think that this is a great example of how your goals are directly related to your attitude. Out of everything in life, your attitude is the one thing you can control, and if you don't believe in yourself, then who else will? I've taken this mindset and applied it to every aspect of my life, whether it be sports, school, my company, and I found a lot of success through it. I plan to attend Duke next fall with a major in marketing and a minor in business administration. And I think marketing really fits my personality and the character traits because I love interacting with people, collaborating, putting myself out there, being creative. And I think a lot of those personality traits I've gained through ISM. ISM has taught me how to network, has improved upon my communication skills, has allowed me to have real-world experience, as well as provided me with once-in-a-lifetime opportunities. A couple examples of these opportunities are the informational interviews that eventually lead to each student finding a mentor. I went on a lot of informational interviews, I think around 12, but I'm just going to go over 4 that really I think impacted the way I perceived marketing. My first one is with Donna Dentley, and she is the Director of Client Relations at Alchemy Technology. The first thing we went over is having standards. Know what your company is capable of, and make sure that no matter what you produce and what you market, that it always lives up to those standards. Because if your clients already expect something out of you and you produce something subpar, then their standards are automatically low. That lowers the value of your company. The next thing we talked about is how essential marketing is to each company. Donna said that a company that doesn't rely on marketing is selling themselves short because the client interest level goes down. And the last thing we talked about were finding your differentiators and focusing on those as you market to your client. Find what makes you different, even if it's a little thing, and make it a big thing. Make it something that makes your client want to choose you over your competitor. Another interview I had was with Mina Sen, and she is the Director of Marketing at Dr. Pepper Snapple. I was extremely impressed with her. As soon as I walked in, she handed me a strategic marketing book for Dr. Pepper Snapple that had all the different strategies, all of the different products and everything, and their whole marketing strategy behind it. She was actually the person who led the Drop It Like It's Hot campaign with Sunkist, which ended up being really successful. And she tied that into just telling people how it's the best feeling seeing how your accomplishments end up coming across to your viewers. It's the most rewarding feeling in the world, and that was her biggest motivator. I also just admired her passion and her willingness to teach. It's nice to know that if you're willing to learn, people are still out there wanting to teach you and wanting to help you grow. And it inspired me to find something I love to do because I want to be that person for somebody else one day. My next interview was with Nima Patel. She is working in product marketing at Intuit. I actually got her contact from Natalie Peenan, which is who I will talk about next. But she was very successful at a very young age, and she had a great reputation amongst all her colleagues, which is something that I hope to accomplish one day. I walked into her place of work and nobody knew who I was or who I was going to meet with. And when they asked me, hey, what are you doing here? And I told them, oh, I have a meeting with Nima Patel. Everybody's like, oh, Nima Patel? Oh, you're lucky. You're lucky you get to talk to her. Like, she's the one to interview. So just having that reputation where everybody around you knows that you're successful and that you're hardworking and that you can be accountable, that's something that I definitely want to have, and that's definitely a future goal of mine as I enter the workforce. I learned a lot from our interview and actually asked her to meet up again after. The second time we met, we went and got coffee, and I brought my company outline from Deal Drop, which is my product from last year. And she went over it, gave me a lot of great advice and some really important feedback. She was not afraid to be honest with me, which is very important to me because that's how I'm going to grow. But one of the biggest pieces of advice she gave me was, why wait? Why not take a 5-month goal and make it a 5-week goal? Like, what's holding you back? What excuses are you making? And that really touched home with me because as hectic as life gets, it's really easy to make excuses for why things can't get done. But the most successful people push those excuses to the side and say, like, why wait? It's going to happen now. The last interview I want to touch on before I get to discussing my mentor is Natalie Peenan, and she is the marketing manager at Intuit. She touched a lot on leadership and how it's important to push others to reach their goal, which I think is a really important life lesson in general, especially if I want to have a leadership position as I enter the workforce. Because it's not just about my goal or what I want to accomplish, it's about working with a team and how the team is going to reach that collective goal together. So being able to realize everybody's strengths and weaknesses and utilizing the strengths to cover up the weaknesses is very important in life. She also talked about how important knowing your client persona is. You need to know their job, their hobbies, their dislikes, their personality, because if you know the client, like you know your brother or sister, you know how to market to them, you know what will appeal to them, what they won't like, and it really helps you develop a really strategic and effective marketing strategy. Another thing she touched on was the importance of internships. It's so important to have experience on your resume, and she even said, being someone who hires and fires people, that if somebody brings in their resume and they've gone to Harvard for so many years and graduated with a master's and whatever, and then she has to compare them to somebody who's had 3 years of experience, interned for this major company, interned for this major company, also did this and this. She said experience trumps education almost every single time, which I found very interesting because I thought it would be the other way around. But she just said having those internships and that experience on your resume can definitely get you ahead against your competition. And lastly, she talked about how you present yourself, how important it is to make sure that you come across to people the way your company wants to come across to people, because you are a direct representation of your company. So social media, even just walking in public, what are you going to wear? How are you going to talk to people? How are you going to treat people? Everything can come back to you. She said you never know who you're going to run into that might end up being someone you do a major deal with later. You never know the type of people that you might meet while you're out in public. So it's always important to present yourself in the best way possible. One of the biggest things I took out of all 4 of these interviews was the importance of failing fast. Not to invest too much in my company all at once, but to maybe play around with it a little bit, get some feedback on it before I just put a bunch of money into it and go jump in the water, basically. So I will definitely use that strategy in the future and not jump into things too quickly, but to take my time so I don't end up wasting time and money in the future. Next, I want to talk about Stacy Good, who is the Director of Marketing for the Dallas Cowboys. I ended up choosing her as my mentor just because she was so passionate, and from the 30 minutes I was with her, I learned so much. So if I can learn that much in 30 minutes, how much can I learn in a year? It was my kind of outlook on that. She was super interactive and creative, and just on the different mentor visits we have, when I get there, she literally allots an hour just to talk to me about what we're going to do for my original work, how we're going to accomplish it. She gives me like a different lesson every day, gives me homework, research to do, and I love that relationship because she pushes me to be better and she's making me learn. She's also very similar to me. She's very competitive and wants the best. We were discussing my original work, and she's like, your board better be the best one out there, and we better have the best product out there because I want you to represent me, and I want you to represent yourself really well. So I like that. I like that she has that competitive nature because she's going to push me to be the best me I can possibly be. She's also helped me a lot develop my original work idea. which I will discuss a little bit later. The next thing I want to talk about is research. Over to the side, we have a quote by Albert Szent-Györgyi, which says, "Research is to see what everybody else has seen and to think what nobody else has thought." And I think that's a huge concept that ISM has taught me, is not to just summarize what I've learned, but to apply it to the big picture and teach myself new things from the information I learned. The first research opportunity I wanted to go over was our UNT trip. I went to 3 different classes: Consumer Behavior, Marketing Foundations, and Personality, and I learned a lot in these classes. Not only did I get experience what being in college and like what a college class is actually going to be like, but I learned valuable information that I can apply as I enter the marketing field. In my consumer behavior class, the teacher taught us the importance of utilizing persona to alter the client's perception. So knowing what colors appeal to them most, and like what size, how big the picture is on the screen, or whatever, like all those things factor into the client's perception of the product. In my Marketing Foundations class, we discussed segmentation, targeting, positioning, and creating a marketing mix. I really liked the fish analogy that my professor used, and he said, "Don't just fish where the fish are, fish where specific fish are attracted to your bait." And that ties into segmentation. So basically knowing the persona of your client in a general area and having a different marketing mix for each segment. Because one marketing mix that might work for single college frats would not work maybe for a mother of 3. So it's important to mix it up. The last class I attended was the personality class, and my professor discussed type versus trait. Type is more broad, where trait is more general, and a lot of professors and personality psychologists are leaning more towards traits, because types are like, oh, I'm outgoing or I'm an introvert. They're very broad, but traits you can say, oh, on a scale of 1 to 10, I am a 5 with sociability. And so it really helps you develop or get a better perspective of the whole human being. The next thing I wanted to discuss was the Business Symposium. For those of you who don't know, this is an annual thing that the ISM teachers host every year. And the students are pushed out of their comfort zone as they are forced into a room with professionals that they've never met, and they have to conduct mock interviews. They have to introduce themselves. They have to strike up conversation. And it really forces them to be an adult and have experience with networking. One of my primary contacts that I got out of that experience was Eric Bonar, and I met him after the Business Symposium. We had a meeting, and we went over again Deal Drop, my company from last year. I met him at the Frisco Chamber of Commerce, and he actually had the president of the Frisco Chamber of Commerce meet us there, and they offered to provide me any help I need, whether it's contacts, programming, anything for the future, because they want to see me succeed. So I thought that was great, and that just really shows how amazing ISM is in getting students those contacts and preparing them for their future. The last research piece I wanted to talk about was social media marketing. For my original work, I will be having to do a lot of research on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, because that might end up being how I market to my consumers. And so far I've done a lot of Instagram research and the demographics of Instagram. So I've learned that they are directed more towards females and very like urban, youthful groups. But I've also learned that it matters when you post throughout the day. So there's so Monday, for example, 3 p.m. is the perfect time to post. While Sunday, it might be noon. So I've had to do in-depth research on the little details, because that's how you develop a marketing plan. You have to be meticulous in your research. For my original work, I will be getting college alumni chapters to visit the Stadium Club. My main goal is to get Texas Tech to make the Stadium Club, which is the new Dallas Cowboys facility that's attached to the stadium, which is a sports bar. I will be getting them to, every Saturday, they'll come watch their college football games in the bar. It's guaranteed. They'll have a certain number of people, which will really bring attraction and hopefully get some people flowing through the Stadium Club. So far, it's been a success, but in order to do this, I'm going to need to know who, what, when, where, why, how. I have to know all these different things when I'm developing this marketing plan. And that's also going to require me reaching out to the alumni chapters. I'm not just focusing on Texas Tech. I'm also doing Alabama, UT, OU, but Texas Tech is the major one right now. And I'm going to also be reaching out to these different sports bars that are competition and finding out what they do that makes them successful, or maybe reading some reviews on what people don't like, and then developing that into a marketing strategy and sending it out. Hopefully, I'm able to accurately portray the high standards of the Dallas Cowboys through my original work and show how you can take a high quality product and capitalize on success. Thank you, everybody.